What's this? Alcohol?
Color to your face.
Color to my face. Oh. Wow.
Wow.
Thanks, I'm finally loosened up to do the rest of this video.
It's Jedimanda here. Welcome back to my channel. And as you can see, we are doing another cosplay breakdown. Many of you have asked for another one of these, and I've just been dragging my feet because I'm lazy and I'd like to keep my stuff in the closet. But now, y'all wanted more cosplay breakdowns. You're getting more cosplay breakdowns. As you can see, we are going to break down my Queen Amidala outfit that I made in 2017. And I made this in 2017. She is a labor of love. It took me 9 months to make this freaking thing, which still boggles my mind. But you know, as you get older into your cosplay journey, you get faster at things and you become more aware of your time. But back in the day, I used to take my sweet time to make these outfits. So this whole thing, like I said, took 9 months. I did travel with her for some competitions. She did place at a couple, including Star Wars Celebration 2017. Yeah, looks off to the camera at Alex going, did I? That was 2017, because it was Orlando. Yeah, because 2019 was Chicago. There we go. Yes, I placed second with her in that, and I also took her to ASIN same year. I won Best Masters, and then I also competed with her at Gen Con 2017, and I won Best in Show. And it was my first Best in Show win, so I have this costume definitely has a very big place in my heart. So let's go over the costume first. So the first thing I worked on this costume was the headpiece, but we will talk about that last. So we're going to talk about the tunic and the skirt first. The tunic fabric is an orange shantung fabric I got off fabric.com. It's not silk, it's polyester shantung, and I was like, that'll work. It was like $13.99 a yard, and I was like, perfect. And it actually worked wonderfully. Once I figured out the pattern that I used for it, I believe I will link in the description below the pattern that I used for the tunic. I know I chopped up the pattern a lot thinking about it. It wasn't completely drafted by hand, but I did use a pattern. So once I figured that out, I pleated the front with these beautiful knife pleats. God, I am losing a lot of sewing points right now on what these pleats are called. But these pleats, figuring those out, pleating that down, and then I moved on to the embroidery. The embroidery, the big embroidery in the middle, the one with all of the beads hanging, is something I did separately from the dress. So it's actually on its own fabric. It's on its own netting fabric that I hand stitched onto the dress once I was completed. So all of this was done separately and then later stitched onto the dress. We talked about the beaded embroidery on the chest. So now let's go over the actual tunic itself. Like I said, the fabric is shantung fabric, polyester. And then over top of it is polyester organza at the chest part that I only did on the neck and the upper chest, because if you look at the reference photos, it is a different fabric, but it's not too different. So I determined that it was some kind of overlay. However, finding a lot of photographs and behind the scenes of this outfit was really difficult because it was made in 1997. The internet was not profound then, but I did what I could. So that is poly organza over top, and then I beaded directly onto the poly organza after I put on this centerpiece. And then all of these were beaded on very last. I think this was the last thing I did to the tunic. Beaded on some simple string. And all of these beads I got at Joann's, Michael's. Everything on this outfit is super accessible, I promise, because the research that I was doing for this dress, the costume designer behind the scenes was like, oh, this is vintage silk velvet we got from Japan from the early 20th century. And I'm like, oh, it's red crushed on top of green velvet. Only 1 yard exists in the world. And I'm like, okay, well, I have Joann's, so we're going to Joann's. So moving on to the skirt, nothing too fancy about the skirt. It's very much just an A-line skirt with a waistband and a zipper. I did the exact type of pleating I did on the front of the tunic on the front panel of the skirt. Not too much different, just, and then a simple hem. So that's, oh, I forgot about the beautiful, beautiful. Now let's talk, stay together. Let's talk about the sleeves. Not too much. I maybe shouldn't have taken that shot of alcohol. So I did the same thing I did on the chest, upper chest of the tunic. On the sleeve bottoms, I went about a foot up from the sleeve hem that is in a nice little pointed direction. And I just kind of made this pattern up. It's not, this whole outfit is not screen accurate. If you're looking for 100% screen accuracy, I'm just going to say it's probably hitting it like a 65%, maybe 80, I don't know, somewhere between that. But I did what I could with the research that I had, and I made this up, and I thought it looked really nice. So there's the beading on that. But all of that was beaded directly onto the outfit, not separately like I did the middle of the chest piece. So that was the inside of the outfit. There's nothing else within the inside of the outfit. I believe for some odd reason, the center back closure is Velcro on the tunic. I don't know why I decided to do that. It was 2017 and I felt like that was the most accurate closure I could find. Don't be like me, use a zipper or snaps or hook and eye closures. Don't do Velcro, because every time I moved, it was like the Hulk breaking out. Like I could hear the Velcro in the back, center back going, and I was like, it was such a dumb decision. But every one of my outfits has a dumb decision. And we live and we learn and we move on. Okay, so let's talk about the cloak. Honestly, one of the most iconic parts of this outfit is her cloak, which you literally see for probably 30 seconds in the movie. Why, George Lucas? Why you do this to us? I don't know, but 30 seconds of this cloak exposure, this is what I was able to come up with. So, fabrics. The fabric of the cloak is the velvet from Joann's. It is not silk velvet. It is, I believe, polyester velvet with a little, no, it has no stretch, polyester velvet. It's very nice. I thought it was a beautiful color match. I went with it and I loved it. The first thing I did was draft the mock-up for it. I made a complete mock-up out of muslin, figured out the sizes of everything. One of the most difficult parts with figuring out how much fabric you need from this is all of the shirring that you will have to measure for. This section here across the upper shoulders and especially down here at the bottom required a lot of math that I had my partner help me on. Thanks, babe. And I want to say the amount of fabric that I used total of red velvet for this outfit was 8 yards. And it may not look like 8 yards, but it was fully 8 yards. So talking about the hem around the sleeve ends is pretty cool and honestly one of my favorite parts of this outfit. For some reason, I just felt like this worked extremely well. The fabric that is underneath is the same fabric as the shantung fabric that is the tunic and the skirt. Then I laid over top this gold Halloween netting that I found at Joann's. And then in between those sections is actually, I want to say, 1/2 inch wide cording, like upholstery cording that you use to make piping for couches. And I laid it down, and I will post some videos here, not some videos, some photographs of behind the scenes of what this looks like flat in the video somewhere here. And what I did was that I kind of snaked the trim all through over the top of the fabric, in between the eyelet fabric and the shantung. And then I took a zipper foot and did a very, very close top stitch along each side of the trim, so it becomes raised when you look at it, so it has a texture and it's 3-dimensional. And yeah, that's what I did. And then once I had that top stitching done, I folded it in half and pressed it really tight, so it kind of smashed it down a little bit. And then that's how I got the sleeve end hems. Sleeve end hems? Sleeve end hems? Yes. I just thought they turned out really, really cool. Also did that for the coat trim exterior on the front. Goes all the way up and around the back of the neck. Okay, so let's talk about the embroidery that's done on the cape. That is several, touch this before if I don't, several little circlets, no, that's not a word. Circlet? But these are just circles inside of another circle, inside of another circle. That, so the embroidery is something that I created in Adobe Illustrator. And then, and basically what it is just circles inside circles inside circles. If you're interested in the embroidery, actually no, not the embroidery file, the design file for this, I do have it available in my shop on my website as a free download. It took me like 2 seconds to make. I will give it to you free. If you want to tackle embroidery on that one, you can. So what I did was made it in Illustrator, then moved it to my embroidery software program, and then I embroidered it on the coat. That took so long. There are so many of these circles all over the cape. I have no idea how many, because once I remember, because I went through at least a couple different spools, because there's a slight tone difference in the red with the spool color. And I also made a really dumb decision. See, we all learn with cosplays as we move through our skill set. One of the biggest dumbass decisions I made with this was that I used white thread for the bobbin in the embroidery machine. And if you know how embroidery and sewing works, sometimes the bobbin color comes available on the top part. Shouldn't, but it does sometimes, especially if it's being sewn really tight. And so there's like white pieces peeking through some parts of all of these little spiral things, and it looked terrible and I hated it. So I went in with a red Sharpie and colored it in, which worked great until someone picked up my cape and got red Sharpie all over their hands. So you live, you learn. Yeah.
They were caught.
So moving on, after I got all of the embroidery pieces done on the cape, I moved on to the shirring, which is this part. And if you don't know what shirring is a hand sewing technique that just means to gather in a certain pattern. I could be completely wrong on that, but I also have a video detailing how to do that right here in the video and the description on my Sewing Sunday series that I did many, many years ago, talking about exactly how I did this. So in short form, it is elastic thread that was used as my bobbin thread, and I basically just sewed a checkerboard pattern on top of the velvet, and then as it was sewn, it was just scrunched up together and made this really cool texture. That is honestly pretty much it. I did that along here and down at the bottom. So it is stretchy and when you pick it up and move it around, but one thing I will tell you, if you do that method with this, is that when you're lining the coat, make sure the lining on the inside, that you put a lining on the inside of the piece right here, because it will sink as you wear the cape more often. Oh man, I also realized what happened there. Oopsie daisy. That's called, I wore this to a lot of conventions and didn't figure that out. We're just gonna not look at that. Moving on. So, like I said, definitely have a lining to the back side of the smocking so it doesn't weigh itself down with the cape over time, because gravity's a bitch. That being said, I did line the entire inside of the cape with a simple polyester lining that I got at Joann's again. One of the last things about this cape is the gold braid trim along the inside here. Whoop. That is just simple rope trim that I bought that I braided.
Where did you buy the rope trim?
Joann's!
Don't say.
Not sponsored. Hashtag would love to be sponsored by Joann herself, because I buy all my fabrics from you, because you're the only fabric store we have here in Kentucky. Okay, thanks, bye. All right, so that is the cape, I believe. The hem is just an upturned hand-sewn hem with very poorly done edges. So besides the cloak cape, I think the most iconic part of this outfit is the headdress. The headdress, like I said before, is something that I did first, and this is actually the second headdress that I did. It took me a while to figure out the design and the engineering of it, because in the movie, they actually used real gold. I'm not even kidding. Her headpiece is gold-plated metal that was hammered in to fit Natalie Portman's head exactly, which just freaking blows my mind. And all of the pieces around it, all gold, real gold. And I can't imagine Natalie Portman's neck muscles after that role. I mean, like, she had to have been just buff as hell. But in this case, it's not out of gold-plated metal, it is out of Warbler, which is also very easily accessible. Not at Joann's though, at Michael's. Nah, it's at Michael's. However, I might not have done I don't think I would recommend people to do Warbler for this. I would recommend foam at some point, maybe different. Let's get into the build. The first thing I did for it was create the hair M wrap piece. The center of it is, I basically drew out the design I wanted on cardboard. Once I had the shape that I liked, that looked good on my head after several try-ons and takeoffs, I cut it out of cardboard. I then took, I want to say it was like a crafting chicken wire, kind of a mesh wire. And then I stuffed it with a bunch of polyfill and quilting batting, and then took the wire around it so it had a structure to it so I could glue stuff onto it. And then in certain spots, I duct taped it down. It makes not much sense, but in this video, I'm showing you some photos of what it looked like before I added the gold pieces in. I would say this is a good method to do it. I have learned more now, probably of a different method to do it, but this worked out for what it needed to be. It's still very heavy, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. This headpiece hurts my neck to wear over more than 3 hours. I don't like to have it on. It is very heavy, mainly just because it is sitting on my head. It's very well balanced, I will say, but it is sitting on my head and pushing down into it, and it doesn't feel good. So the cap part is Warbler. I cut out shapes of Warbler and I heated it up to my head size of a mannequin, and then just kind of tucked the ends under. It's pretty simple. It's 2 layers of Warbler, I know that, and then the center part here is actually cut out, and that is where I have the hair piece itself kind of gripping onto the head cap itself. And this might not make a whole lot of sense, but it does make some sense. And then under the centerpiece that is unfortunately showing because of the age of this poor baby are some foam pieces to help it cushion and it not be so pressured onto my head. The hair, I think, is 4 separate wigs that I bought all off Amazon for like 10 bucks each, that I took apart and just glued the weft onto the wire mesh centerpiece thing. I would have done it a little bit differently. I probably would have gotten loose hair and shellacked it down with tacky glue, kind of the method that a lot of people do with hair sculptures now, instead of just adding on a whole bunch of wefts and then just hoping it lays nice by just continually spraying it with freeze spray. Doesn't necessarily look good, that's why there's a lot of flyaways, and why it's picking up a lot of dust and looking kind of gray. I would have done it differently. Now that I know, the more you know, the more you know. The inner piece we've talked about, the headpiece we've talked about. Oh, let's talk about the detailing on the head cap and also the gold pieces. That is actually puffy paint. And I'll have some really up close shots here in the B-roll of this video, but you can kind of see where the gold has rubbed off and it's lime green puffy paint underneath of it. And that's just because of wear over the years. And if I were to wear it again to another convention, I'd repaint it. But it's actually just puffy paint that I let completely dry overnight, and then I spray painted it with gold to get that raised texture, which I thought was really cool. I would suggest you to do it. The problem with puffy paint is that it's very hard to control if it splats out of the tube. So maybe a different type of 3-dimensional paint. Hot glue would be one you could use, or maybe painting on the puffy paint with a paintbrush. I'm not sure, but that'd be interesting to figure out. But in 2017, 2016, when I made this thing, that's what I had and that's what I used. So it's puffy paint and then gold spray painted over top, and then just acrylic painted the dots where jewels would be. These are just some jewels that I purchased from Joann's that I added on. And the whole top part up here is all done in Warbler as well, and then just attached on. These guys down here were very interesting to figure out, but they are detachable with a couple jump rings, because I did travel a lot with this outfit, so I needed these things to come to you know, become a little more travelable, one of that. So that is that. Oh, the inside, fun fact, I like this. The inside of these little pieces, I couldn't for the life of me figure out what the fabric was, but it was not the fabric that her outfit was. I don't know why. It might have been, and the photos that I had did not show that. So actually it's some brocade fabric I used for my Cersei Lannister dress that I made about a year prior to that. So it's a little more purple than the actual fabric of the cloak, and the tone is similar, but it works. And then I use the same type of overlay material that I used on the cloak over top of that. And then all of these pieces are just flat Warbler with the puffy paint texture as well. And then last but not least are these gold chains that I just attached on with super glue underneath the jewels on the sides of my headpiece. And then along the back, there is actually a piece of elastic that does strap around my head that I put underneath of my wig when I wear it, because I do wear a wig with this that I have right here. It's not that amazing looking at it right here, but it's actually a wig that I removed the lace front from. I think it is the Katie style from Arta Wigs, I believe, but it is an Arta wig, short-haired wig. And this basically acts as a cushion and also my hair for this, and is something for the ponytail to grab onto. I have it in a hairnet right now because the bottom pieces are kind of falling off, but it is a clip that does just attach right on the back of this and sits like this. And that's how I had the back of my hair. Then also little Warbler accoutrement pieces on the very back of the ponytail. So this is all easily broken down, can easily be traveled with. Looking back on it, I probably would have done a different base wig. Maybe would have thinned the hair out a little bit, because it does kind of peek out on the sides and I don't really like it too much. But it does work, and I think it worked fine, because you do need hair. I would recommend a wig underneath of the headpiece just because how heavy it is, so you need some kind of cushion. Yeah, after the headpiece, that is pretty much it. The only other things that I wore with this is my undergarments that were just a pair of leggings and a bra top, and the shoes that I wore with it were tan dance shoes with a slight heel. And that's about it with this outfit. Honestly, there's just about 4 main component pieces and no props, except the one that you're wearing on your head. The next cosplay breakdown that I will be doing is my other Queen Amidala outfit, the black decoy gown that her decoy wears in Phantom Menace episode 1, and that will be next week's video. If you have any questions about this build, I do have a complete, more in-depth write-up on my website that I wrote a couple years ago that I will have the link in the description below, as well as I will try my best to link fabrics and stuff that I used to make this in the description below. Be aware that it might not be available anymore because I made this so many years ago, but I will do my best to try to give you guys as many material links as possible. If you would like to see more cosplay breakdowns of my other cosplays, please let me know in the comments below. And just like every week that I say, if you like cosplay and you like sewing, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. And I will see you guys next week. Bye!